Hey everyone, welcome back to NU Takes. My name is Michael. His name's Didi. We are back to give our thoughts and reactions to Northwestern's 24-6 victory over Indiana State on Saturday.
So Northwestern jumped out to a quick 14-0 lead and didn't look back, relying on the running game and some impressive Brandon Joseph punt returns to stay in front. Obviously, Indiana State's an FCS team, and this is a game that Northwestern was very much expected to win. They came in as over 25-point favorites. That being said, Michael, what does this win mean for the Cats?
I mean, if we're going to be honest with one another, not that much. I mean, it's a little bit of a confidence boost, but when you're playing Indiana, just to get a win, but when you're playing Indiana State, you expect to win by more than 18 points. And yes, they had that fantastic first quarter, but from there, the offense was just stalled on every drive. And the defense and the special teams really kept them going and kept it so that Indiana State wasn't able to get back in the game. But I think that the win means really just a boost of confidence for especially the defense, who performed very well up until the final play. And it would have been great if they got the shutout, but obviously it's so hard to keep a shutout in college football. But I loved what I saw from the defensive line. The secondary made some great plays down the stretch. And overall, it was a solid performance from the defensive crew. And beyond that, it's really just means that this offense is still going to be inconsistent like it was a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's good to see. I think, for team morale, for Northwestern to get a win. There was a clip I think that we all saw of AJ Hampton dancing in the locker room afterwards. Which is something that's always good to see. But I think that this win was pretty disappointing for what it was. I mean, I know that we've seen a lot of SCS teams upset FBS teams in the past 2 weeks of college football. Obviously, most recently Jacksonville State, shocking Florida State. But Northwestern, I think, underperformed. And I think that we were all expecting a big offensive performance. After we saw, some promising things against Michigan State, they really, after those first two drives, completely stalled out. There was a lot of miscues, miscommunications, poor execution. I mean, the play calling was pretty vanilla, which I think was, expected. But at the same time, with a vanilla play calling against an FCS team, you should be able to dominate them in the run game and the pass game, and that just didn't happen from, after the first two drives. I think, like you said, the defensive line, to see that was definitely to see them perform well was encouraging, as well as the secondary. I think the linebackers are still very, very concerning. But I think the defensive performance didn't really tell us anything that we didn't know. I mean, this is an FBS team that's defense, no matter, even if it is not very good, should still be able to shut down an FCS team that's not very good for the FCS. So I think all in all, even though again it was an 18-point win, it's pretty disappointing.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that it seemed like the offense almost lost motivation to keep driving down the field. They scored very easily in the first two quarters, but after that, it just seemed like they took their foot off the gas and they didn't make the plays that fans know that they can make, especially against a lesser opponent like Indiana State. Sure, this could be a product of Northwestern always struggling in September games, but this also could just be a sign that Northwestern's offense isn't complete, and the flashes of great playmaking from Hunter Johnson a week ago may not be what comes out week in, week out. Didi, what were you? We both agree that it wasn't a win that Northwestern should have had. It should have been a bigger point margin. But were you impressed by anything from Northwestern?
Honestly, not really. I hate to be a cynic, but Northwestern, I think, they started the game off promisingly, but they didn't dominate the way that I think that they should have dominated. I think that Hunter Johnson, it's just like Hunter Johnson looked very much like, again, like the offense wasn't trying to put points on the board. I think that Hunter Johnson should have been throwing the ball more, taking more shots downfield, and that more of those shots should have connected, and there should have been big plays on the board. That's something that didn't happen. I think in general, the offense, yeah, sure, Evan Hull looked good, but again, it's an FCS team. Like it's many rungs below where Northwestern is. And the fact that they weren't able to score, more than 10 points over, over 3 quarters is not a good sign in my eyes. No matter how vanilla the play calling might have been. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think that there were individual performances, yes, that were good. I mean, the one that really stands out to me is, Tommy, who had, he put up an impressive stat line. He had 1.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hurries, a forced fumble. I think that was, exciting to see. But these FCS games, I just don't, I don't understand really why they're played other than to, give the fans, something to cheer about. Um, so yeah, again, I mean, not too many positives, honestly, at least from my view.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that you can take away from like it's so hard to judge FCS games. I mean, we've said it a million times just in a few minutes, but Evan Hull, every time he was on the field, he was making plays, and it was something that he did last week against Michigan State. He was the best ball carrier that Northwestern had, and once again, he was putting up numbers. He obviously had the most carries, but this was the first time that he had received this many carries, and he performed very well. And from pretty much every carry he had from start to finish, he was gaining positive yards. And that's something that's very encouraging for a team that lost Cam Porter, who is projected to be one of the best backs in the conference, to be able to say next man up and have Evan Hull perform and still make it so that this offense can do something. I would have liked to see a little more Evan Hull mixed in later when the offense was stalling. They went a lot more to throwing the ball and giving it to Anthony Tyus, and it just wasn't working as much. And I think defensively, as you said, Tomi Adebayor had a fantastic game, and to see individual performances on the defensive line in particular is great. And it's very reassuring to see the dominance they had against the run, especially. Again, it's Indiana State, but I do like the individual performances from the defense. I think they are on the right track to being back to half of what they were a year ago. Obviously, there's a lot to work with still, but I think this was a promising sign to dominate a Division I offense like they did.
All that being said, I do agree. I think Evan Hull did look great out there. He looked fast, made some good cuts, hard to bring down. I think that he should be this team's number 1 running back. Even though I did like what I saw, out of Tyus and and Claire, I think they both played well as well. But it seems like Hull should be this team's number 1. Do you think that the version of Northwestern that we saw against Indiana State? Do you think that they're in a good position to be able to beat Duke this weekend?
If they give Evan Hull the ball more consistently, I think yes, just because Duke lost to Charlotte, who is pretty newly promoted to the FBS, if I'm not mistaken. And they really struggled. They really struggled defensively against Charlotte, which is surprising, seeing that they are a lower level squad, and to give up that many points shows that maybe Northwestern can put up a few themselves. North Carolina A&T as well put up 17 points against Duke, which is another sign of there's a way that you can break this defense. It's given up a lot of points to subpar opponents. And also Duke, David Cutcliffe, his squad just produces pocket quarterbacks, a lot of them. Daniel Jones a few years ago was a prime example. And if this Northwestern front seven can continuously pressure the quarterback like they did, I think that it can make Duke's life a nightmare. And their quarterback, who is Gunnar Holmberg, is going to have a tough time dealing with guys like Adebayor and Sam Duke Miller, who are just going to be coming for his head every single play. So I think that if this version Northwestern steps out onto the field in Durham, I don't think they're going to crush Duke, but I think that they can leave with a win.
I mean, I see where you're coming from. I think that again, if the defense was able to play like they did against Indiana State, they would be able to have a beat Duke. But at the same time, I think that just seeing what we saw against Michigan State, I just I think that Duke, even though yes they did lose to Charlotte, but Charlotte's a good team. I think Charlotte's one of those teams that even though they are recently promoted, They're one of those teams that we've seen in recent years, seemingly coming out of nowhere and making a name for themselves. And Duke, dude, I mean, Duke did, like you said, have a good offensive showing against North Carolina. Again, not a great team, but they scored 45 against a team that they, against their bye game, and Northwestern only managed to score 24. And I think that with Northwestern going into North Carolina, I think I'm not sure honestly exactly of how the Duke football environment is compared to their basketball environment. But it's always difficult playing in another team's stadium. But I just don't think that the defense is at the place where it needs to be in order to grind out a win over Duke. That showed a pretty good passing offense, pretty good rushing offense against North Carolina State. So I think coming into the season, I thought that Northwestern was gonna have a chance to compete for the Big Ten West title. And again, it's only been one game, but I think that the defense being really good against Indiana State doesn't really mean anything, frankly. And I think that they're going to show a lot of flaws and make a lot of mistakes once again. I think that stuff isn't just magically corrected by playing a bad team or having an extra week to look at film. And I think we saw that in 2019 with the offense. How that first terrible game was kind of a showing of how bad the offense was going to be for the rest of the year. And I think that this could be honestly a similar year on the other side of the ball with the defense. So we'll see what happens. I think that Hunter Johnson will have a good game, but I think that Evan Hull needs to get involved in order for that offense to be to put points on the board. But I don't think that the Cats are going to be able to pull out a win.
The defense isn't going to be fantastic, but against a Duke team who I think is very subpar, I think they'll be able to make a few plays just because they do have a lot of talent on that squad regardless. And it's just a matter of getting them more reps. But something to note is that Duke only has one sack in their 2 games against Charlotte and North Carolina A&T. And that could be a way for that Northwestern offensive line to get back on track because they mightily struggled against Indiana State protecting Hunter Johnson. And that's very concerning because they came in as projecting to be a strong unit for Northwestern and one of the stronger units that Wildcat fans have seen in recent years. And they have struggled to protect Hunter Johnson against some subpar opponents like Indiana State. But I think that they have the chance to bounce back and give Hunter Johnson a little more time in the pocket. And, we'll be able to see Hunter Johnson make some throws, make a few more plays. And I think that they can come out against a Duke team who, again, is very unimpressive in my eyes. I think that they're a very bad squad. They're going to be towards the bottom of the ACC. And in terms of fan environment, they call them the Cameron Crazies and not the Wallace Wade Wild Ones for a reason. So I think I don't really know, but I would guess that Duke's football game day projects like a Northwestern before students come to campus type of environment. But maybe I'm wrong. Durham, show me wrong. But I do like Northwestern's chances. I think this is a good bounce back, and it's really just the typical September struggles that the Cats go through.
I am a believer in Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's an amazing football coach. I don't think that a repeat of 2019 is going to happen, at least in terms of record or in terms of overall performance. But I think that this is going to be one of those down years for Northwestern, and I think that that'll start to cement itself in everyone's minds in Durham this Saturday when they fall to the Blue Devils.
We'll only have to wait and see. From Menu Takes, I'm Michael Bartholomew, the optimist towards Northwestern football.
And I'm Didi, the realist, let's say. Yeah.
All right. And we'll see you all next week.